Hey guys, World at War Behind Enemy Lines is finally out, and in today's video we will take a look at the 7 new cards and rate them from 1 to 5 stars. Make sure to not miss today's stream where we will try out all the new cards and try to create new cool decks with them. But for now, let's not waste any time and jump right into the video. Alright guys, here we go. Starting with the only elite this expansion. It is the 5 credit order Monastery for Soviets. And when you play it, you destroy and replace every enemy unit with a unit from the same nation costing 1 less if possible. So if there is not any unit costing less than the current unit, it is just staying the same. But if there is a unit, it's just destroying the current one and respawning one with 1 credit less cost. It is a really much discussed card that is coming this expansion. Some people say it is completely broken. Then there are some people like me that say it is okay. It's not really strong because it's still triggering the destruction effects. Like on 272nd, for example, it is giving your opponent a Joseph Stalin and an ISU. But it also can be very strong if you play it against stuff like tokens or Brit Air maybe. I think the best use case is against tokens, because all the 1 credit tokens will be transformed into the 554s. That's 0 credit 1/1 infantry. And it doesn't really matter how much. They could be 20/20s. It doesn't matter. It's just transforming all of them. And in this case, this card is really strong. And it can also be good against Brit Air with all these swordfish and gladiators that might be early buff from the close air support or the finest hour. They will just transform into the parachutes for Britain. That 1/1 mobilized unit. And in this case, this can also be very strong. But in all the other cases, and as soon as your opponent is having a destruction unit on the board, like a Chaika, for example, I think you don't want to play this because it's just giving your opponent an additional bonus. It gives them this destruction effect plus an additional unit. And so I don't know how good 5 credits is to spend into this. In the situations that I described to you against tokens and Brit Air, it might be completely broken, but I think on average this is really just an average card, so I give it 3 stars. I think it's not an auto include in a lot of Soviet decks. Next one is a very interesting one, the Commandos Kiefer, a 0/1 mobilized unit that deals 1 damage to a random enemy when your HQ gains defense. Finally, more mobilized units for mobilized decks. Unfortunately, it is a French card. Usually all your French slots are already full with cards that are already needed. But maybe Commandos is a must pick for all the mobilized decks now. Because with the POTES and deployment of mobilized units, you usually gain health. So this unit is not just a mobilized unit and dealing damage as soon as you deploy it with a POTES. But there's also other synergies, like when you have additionally honey on board, for example. This just triggers twice, so it's already 2 damage for 2 credits. It is random, but it can be very strong. And just imagine you have 2 of these on board and a honey or 2 honeys, and you play a land lease. This 2 of these suddenly deal 8 damage. So it can be stronger than Commandos in a way, especially because it's mobilized and your opponent also needs to get rid of it or deal an order to it, target it with an order, otherwise it's just growing and growing. So I think this card is really good, and I'm really looking forward to try out decks with this and see how broken it can be. So I think I give this one 4 stars. I think with only 1 health and 0 attack at the start. And also, do you have the problem with space in your support line, right? So you cannot have 2 of these, a honey, a crusader, and or 2 honeys and 2 crusader and 2 of these. So there's limited space in your support line, and at some point you maybe need to get stuff to the front line to make this super OP. So I think it is well balanced, but I think it's fun to play. So we give it 4 stars. Then we have a very strong card here for Britain, the second Parachutes. 2 credits, 1/4 with Fury, which alone is already really, really strong, because you can get 2 aggressive units from your opponent out that only have 1 attack. Also trades into 35T, for example. But the Pincer effect, just imagine. Units dealt combat damage by this unit are destroyed. So if you do this on a bomber or an artillery, this artillery can just kill every unit as long as it's dealing 1 damage. And if you imagine this one, for example, on a 2-pounder, which has 0 operation cost, or on a Katyusha, which has blitz, so on turn 5, you can already blitz out a Katyusha, Pincer with this, that can kill any unit. And that sounds really, really strong. Also in Brit Air, like a 1/3 Swordfish can just get buffed by or pincered by this and kills a bigger unit. It is special, so you can have 2 in the deck, and I think this one is really, really strong. And I think I would give this one. Also with the Fury and 4 health, it is a good target for the naval support. All these navals in the game. And so it can also be a threat in itself. When it just goes to the front line, you target it with... You deploy it on turn 2, turn 3 it goes to the front line, on turn 4 you just do naval support, can attack twice because you have 4 credits, and it has 8 potential damage to your opponent. So this card in itself is already a threat for your opponent. So I would give this one 5 stars, I guess. You can use it in a lot of decks and it's very, very strong. Then we have a very interesting card here for France, Chasing Shadows. Target unit moves into the front line if possible. And that sounds really, really interesting. I've waited for this interaction for so long, and there it is, and even for 0 credits. And since it is limited, you can also have 3 copies of it in your deck. And 0 credits, just imagine, you can just move anything to the front line. If there's a big bomber, a big artillery in your opponent's support line that you cannot reach, you just pull it to the front line and trade with it into it. So it can be also be a good addition into Mobilized decks, because they usually struggle against airplanes or artilleries, because there's a lot of infantry in your deck and you cannot really reach support lines really fast with infantry. So that is also a good tool to get rid of annoying cards. But it also has other synergies, like if you... I can also imagine that one in the German-France burn deck, where you play the resistance cards and all that burn, all that lightning strikes and stuff like that. And you can add Africa Regiment into this maybe, and deploy your Africa Regiment, play this one, move them instantly to the front line, which means 3 more damage to your opponent's HQ, plus the additional 3/3 infantry. But also stuff like Chevy, for example. US, France, and then you meme around with Chevy into Chasing Shadows, and suddenly you have 2 4/2s in the front line. So I have a lot of ideas how to play this card, or how to utilize this card, and I'm really looking forward to try that one out. I think it is cool. It might not be... I mean, it can be very good. So I think I give it 4 stars. It's a really cool card, and I think it can also be very strong. Then we have the Lysander PL, a 1/2 fighter, exile for Britain, Intel 2, and when the enemy plays a known card, deal 1 damage to the enemy HQ. Actually, this card could be very, very good in resistance, since when you give your opponent resistance cards, you know they have resistance cards, and whenever they play it, they get 2 damage to the HQ instead of 1. As long as they do not discard from their top deck, for sure. A good addition also to any Legions deck, I guess. Gives you additional damage output. I think it's not completely broken. It is a cool idea, but I don't see it played that often. Maybe I'm wrong. Because when you play a lot of Intel, you know your opponent's hand. Whenever they play a card, that damage can just add up, right? If they play 10 cards that you already know, that is just 10 damage. When do you ever out-heal that? So I think I go with 4 stars here. That card looks strong, but not insanely broken, hopefully. You can have 3 copies. Just imagine you have 3 of these in the deck, know your opponent's hand, and whenever they play a card, they get 3 damage. Ooh, that's a lot, holy moly. I hope I'm correct here with 4, and I really hope this is not a 5, because if this is a 5, holy moly, we might have a problem. So then we have a Soviet order here, Ceres Gate. Pin target unit and deal 2 damage to adjacent units. This card can be really good against artillery, for example, because they're like the Soviet artillery that RV Big Ben is so annoyed of. So here's a tool against it. If your opponent is having 3 of them in his support line, you can pin one of them, kill the adjacent one, because a lot of them have just 2 health, and this card is just perfect against this. But I'm not sure how to think about it in general. I mean, it is 2 credits, deal 4 damage, and pin a unit, if there is a perfect setup for this. And this sounds really strong. But against stuff like Brit Air, for example, the units have none of them, or not a lot of them, have less than 3 health. This card is just not as good. So I'm not 1000% sure. I think I go with maybe 3 stars. It is strong, sure, but not that strong, I guess. Yeah. Okay, and the final card, also much discussed here. Some people think it is absolute garbage. Some people, me including, think it is really strong. 2 credits, 6 health. Sure, it has 0 attack, but if your opponent wants to get rid of it in 1 turn and he needs to attack with 2 or 3 units, all of them get dealt 3 damage. So every unit that attacks this is just dealt 3 damage on destruction of that unit. So some people are arguing, oh, then he's just doing 2 attacks, set its health to 1 and destroy it next turn. But sure, but it bought you a turn and it's only costing 2 credits. And 6 health is a lot for 2 credits. And even if it's your turn, and since there was a change that you can also attack with 0 attack units, you can just attack with it and deal 3 damage there to a unit that you attack. And that is maybe more than you get out of any 2 credit guard in the game. Like 3 damage to a unit. Which guard in the game has 6 health and 3 attack? I don't know any. So that's why I think this card is really good. Also the naval support synergy here, just to have a 2 credit 6/6 potentially, is really good. And if you compare this with the 1/8 for Soviet, that 3 credit guy, that is costing 1 more, but only has 1 attack. But I think they're on an equal level here. But if your opponent wants to remove this, this is just 3 damage to all units that attack. And it can stop a lot of early aggression from your opponent. And maybe he needs to spend a very high value removal on that, like Amphibious Assault or Raiding Brigade, any stuff like that. But then it just opens up the way for your bigger guards to stay on board and buys you much more time. So I really like this card, and I think I'll also give it 4 stars. Yeah, then we have some alternate art here for reserves, MI5 and arming the resistance. Really cool. I like them a lot. So guys, that's it for the card rating. Don't forget to tune into the stream. When you finish this video, I might be already live. So don't miss that one. Let me know what you think about the cards. I really like the discussion, and I always like to see different opinions, and maybe I mean, I'm pretty sure I did not see every potential of every card, and hopefully we can find that out together. So yeah, let me know down in the comments, and we hopefully see each other in the stream or in the next video. Bye bye.